My husband's lover crashed our 6-year-old daughter's birthday with a gift in hand. I exposed their 6-month affair in front of everyone, leaving her humiliated and him cornered. The gift bag in her hand had silver stars printed on it, and a curl of ribbon that she'd clearly tied herself, and she smiled at me like we were two women who'd been meaning to meet for months. "I'm Bianca, a friend of your husband's from the firm." She aimed the words at my daughter, who was already gone, sprinting toward the ball pit in her paper crown, but her eyes never left me. They measured, they tested. I'd seen those eyes before. 31 hours earlier in a voicemail, she didn't know I had her voice low and thick. At 12:14 in the morning, telling him she'd worn the perfume he liked and the door would be unlocked around us. The party carried on. Parents traded small talk over juice boxes, streamers sagged from the rented ceiling. My husband stood by the pizza table, with his hand halfway into a bag of paper plates frozen there, like someone had hit pause on him mid-motion. "Bianca," I said, and I made my voice warm, made it bright as the balloons. "So glad you found the place." She tipped her head, and I watched the satisfaction move across her face like a shadow. She thought showing up here meant she'd won, thought she was planting a flag. I was just telling some of the moms. I went on and I let my voice rise. Let it carry to the corners of the room about how you and my husband have been sleeping together since March. The bounce house blower kept humming into a silence that dropped over everything else. Bianca's smile came apart at the seams. A dad turned with a slice of pizza halfway to his mouth. Two moms by the window stopped talking. Somebody's kid asked what sleeping together meant and got hushed fast. "Excuse me?" Bianca tried, but the word came out with no air behind it. My husband moved, then finally, unfreezing all at once and coming toward us with both hands up, like he was walking toward something that might bite. Babe, can we step outside?" "We're not stepping anywhere," I said, and I already had my phone out, thumb sliding to the folder I'd built over 3 weeks. But Bianca might want to hear a few of her greatest hits first. Her color went from flushed to gray. I unlocked the phone. "The door will be unlocked," I read out, loud, steady, "and I wore the perfume you said drives you crazy." I looked up. Parents had gone still with plastic forks in the air. My husband lunged for the phone, and I stepped back out of his reach. "There's a whole voicemail," I told the room. She left it at midnight while I was asleep down the hall from our daughter. "Stop," my husband said. "Please stop." "This one's my favorite," I said, and I scrolled. "Tell your wife the school thing ran late again. Really shows the kind of respect you two have for me." One mom clapped a hand over her son's ears. Another was already thumbing at her screen. Bianca started backing toward the door, that little starry gift bag clutched against her chest like it could shield her from anything. "This is unhinged," she said, and her voice shook so hard the word barely held together. "You're unhinged. I have hotel folios," I said. "I have the charges on our joint card. I have 61 messages you thought he deleted. And now I have a room full of people who just watched you walk into my 6-year-old's birthday party carrying a gift like you belonged here." She ran. My husband went after her, throwing one desperate glance back at me over his shoulder. A glance I let fall to the floor unanswered. The room held its breath for another beat. Then one of the moms, Nadia, whose daughter was in my kid's dance class, crossed the room and put her hand on my arm. "I saw all of it," she said quietly. "If you ever need someone to say so, I will." 2 other women nodded. One was already typing. "I'm sorry," I said to the room. "I'm sorry this happened here at a kid's party of all places. But I'm not sorry that everyone got to see exactly who showed up today. Somebody restarted the games. Kids drifted back toward the ball pit and the streamers. Parents picked their conversations back up in lower voices, but I felt the looks land on me anyway. Sympathy, solidarity, the particular wide-eyed shock of people who'd gotten more of an afternoon than they'd paid for. My daughter blew out her candles 20 minutes later, 6 of them, and I held myself together long enough to pull the candles out and cut the cake into little squares and hand them around on napkins. My husband came back inside alone. His face had gone the color of dishwater, that grayish no color. A face turns when the body finally understands what the mind has done. He walked past the parents still clustered near the pizza, past the kids who'd abandoned the games to watch the grown-ups instead, and came straight to me. "We need to talk," he said. "We really don't. Please." His voice cracked down the middle. "Not here. Not like this." Nadia stepped up beside me, close, deliberate. 2 of the other moms had their phones up now and had stopped pretending they didn't. "You gave her the address," I said. "You told her where and when? Our daughter's birthday at the community center. She picked out the theme for, so yeah, here is exactly the right place." He reached for my elbow, and I pulled it back like his hand was a hot burner. "Don't." "I didn't know she'd come," he said. "I swear to God I didn't know. And I'm supposed to believe you. She's been—" He stopped, looked around at all the faces angled toward us, dropped his voice. "She's been texting me non-stop. I told her it was finished. I told her we couldn't do this anymore." "Really?" I said, and I brought the phone back up and swiped to 2 nights ago and turned the screen to face him. "Can't wait for tonight." I read it slow. 61 texts and a midnight voicemail, and "can't wait for tonight" from 31 hours ago. So, which lie are we doing? Were you lying to me, or were you lying to her? Or is it both? Because I genuinely can't keep track anymore. His jaw worked. Nothing came out of it. One of the dads cleared his throat. "Maybe give them a minute, folks. Stay," I said, and I heard how clear my own voice was. "I want witnesses for this part." My husband's face flushed, the gray burning off into something red and cornered. "You're humiliating me. Am I?" The laugh that came out of me had an edge on it. "You humiliated me every single time you texted me that you were stuck at the office. Every time you kissed me on the forehead on your way in from her. Every time you looked at our daughter and let her believe her dad was a man worth looking up to. Mama." My daughter was standing 3 foot away with a deflated star balloon dragging from her fist. Her crown slipped down over one eyebrow. I dropped to my knees so I was level with her. "Yeah, baby. What is it? Why is everybody using their quiet voices?" I smoothed her hair back. Sometimes grown-ups have a hard conversation, and everyone gets quiet around it. I said, "That's all. It's grown-up stuff." "Is Daddy sad?" "Daddy made some choices," I said, and my throat tried to close and I didn't let it. "And now the choices are here, but you don't have to hold any of that. Okay? You go have cake." She looked at me for a second with those serious eyes she gets, then nodded and ran back toward her friends, the balloons skidding along the floor behind her. I stood back up. Bianca was long gone. My husband looked like a man who'd been hollowed out with a spoon. My mother appeared in the doorway right then, a foil-covered tray in her hands, taking in the whole frozen tableau with her mouth set in a hard, flat line. She'd raised me on her own after my father pulled almost this exact stunt when I was 10, and she read the room in about a second and a half. She set the tray on the nearest table and came to stand on my other side so that I had Nadia on one shoulder and my mother on the other, and my husband facing all 3 of us. "Come on," she said to him, not unkindly. "Just done. This isn't the day for it. Not in front of these babies." He looked at her, and something in her face must have finished him because his shoulders dropped and he turned and walked out into the parking lot without another word. Through the glass doors, I watched him get into his car and sit there with his forehead against the wheel, not driving, just sitting, while the last of the party wound down around me. We packed up in a fog of deflated balloons and half-eaten cake and paper plates going soft with grease. Nadia and 2 other moms wouldn't hear of me cleaning, told me to sit, herded their own kids into helping. Victor, a dad whose son was in my daughter's class, hung back as everyone filtered out. "Hey," he said. "Low, so only I could hear. That took guts. What you just did? My sister went through something like it and spent 2 years wishing she'd said one honest sentence out loud. You said a lot of them." "Thanks," I said, and found that I meant it. "You protected your kid and you drew a line," he said. "That counts for something." Then he collected his son and left, and the room emptied out until it was just me, my mother, my daughter, Nadia, and the wreckage. My phone buzzed in my back pocket. A text from a number I didn't know. "You'll be sorry you did that." I deleted it without answering and slid the phone away. "Come on, birthday girl," I said. "Let's load up your presents." My daughter didn't move from the little folding chair she'd planted herself in. "Is Daddy coming home tonight?" she asked, the question I've been dreading since March. I knelt in front of her again. "No, sweetie," I said. "He's going to stay somewhere else for a little while. Grown-up stuff, remember?" She looked down at the deflated balloon. She was mean. "The lady?" "Yeah," I said. "She was. Is it because of me?" The words went into me like a splinter. I took both her hands. "No," I said. "Listen to me. None of this is because of you. Not one single piece of it. Grown-ups make bad choices sometimes, and when they do, it can hurt people. But that's on the grown-up who made it, never on you. Not ever." She nodded, but I could see the doubt sitting in her eyes. The same doubt I'd carried around for 20 years, secretly certain I was the reason my own father had packed a bag one Sunday. "I love you more than anything on this earth," I told her, "and that never changes, no matter what." "Okay," she said. "Okay." We loaded the presents into trash bags because we hadn't brought enough tote bags. My mother carried the leftover cake, and Nadia grabbed the goodie bags nobody had taken. A community center employee who'd been hovering near the back office finally came over, wringing a rag in her hands. "I'm so sorry about all that," she said. "Do you want me to write up an incident report? Sometimes people want it on file." I hadn't thought about that, but the word file lit something up in the part of my brain that had spent 3 weeks in a lawyer's office. "Yeah," I said. "Actually, that would help." She brought a clipboard and I filled in the basics: time, location, nature of the disturbance while my daughter climbed into my mother's car. By the time I signed it, the October sun had dropped low and gone orange, throwing long shadows across the lot. My phone showed 9 missed calls, all from my husband, and 3 voicemails. I sat in my own car with the engine running and the heat blowing and listened to the first one. "Please pick up," he said. "I know you're furious and you have every right, but we have to talk about logistics. I need clothes. I need my laptop. Just call me." The second was different. Bianca can't stay at her place. Her roommate saw the neighborhood post and freaked out. She has nowhere to go. This is out of control. The third was quieter. I talked to my brother. I can maybe crash there for a couple nights, but he's 40 minutes away, and I can't be that far from her. Please just let me sleep in the guest room tonight. I won't say a word. I promise. I didn't call back. I put the car in drive and took my daughter home. At the house, my mother carried presents in, while my daughter went straight up to her room and closed the door. Soft and deliberate, the sound of a kid who needs space to sort through something too big for her. "Let her be," my mother said. "She'll come down when she's ready." I sat down on the couch, and the last of the adrenaline drained out of me all at once, leaving nothing but a bone-deep tiredness. Nadia texted, "You alive barely?" I typed, "Want company? Want 10 hours of sleep? I wrote, but thank you. Call me if that changes, she wrote back. I have wine and terrible TV and no bedtime. I almost smiled. Then I opened my email and found 3 messages from my attorney sent within the last hour. The first heard from the center that you left a report on file. Good, that helps. The second, do not under any circumstances let him back into the house without a third party present. Change the locks if you have to. The third, screenshot every call, text, and voicemail from here on, especially anything that reads as a threat or an attempt to guilt you. I forwarded her the deleted number text and the voicemail transcripts, and then I sat at the kitchen table and changed the password on every account we shared. Bank, utilities, insurance, the streaming login. Each reset felt like taking back a key I hadn't known he still held. My phone rang. Not him this time. My mother-in-law's name lit up the screen. I looked at it through 4 rings and then I answered. I heard what happened, she said, her voice pulled tight as a wire. I need you to understand that my son made a terrible mistake, but humiliating him in public is not going to save your marriage. I'm not trying to save it, I said. I'm ending it. Over one affair, people survive worse. That's a choice people get to make, I said, and I've made mine. Think of that little girl. She needs her father. She needs a father who respects her mother, I said. Right now, she doesn't have one. There was a silence on the line, and then my mother-in-law's voice came back colder. Bianca called me in tears. She says, "You threatened her career. She crashed my daughter's birthday party to show off an affair." I said I told her the truth about how choices have consequences. That's not a threat. She says you're vindictive. She can say whatever she needs to say to sleep at night. I said it doesn't make it true. I raised my son better than this. Then maybe you're calling the wrong person, I said, and I hung up before she could find another line. My daughter's door opened upstairs. She came down in her pajamas already, the crown gone, the stuffed fox from her present pile tucked under one arm. "Can we watch a movie?" she asked. "Absolutely," I said. We curled up together under the throw blanket and put on something animated about a girl and a talking boat, and for 90 minutes I let myself pretend it was an ordinary Saturday night, that we were just 2 people who'd had a long day and not 2 people standing at the lip of the crater my husband had left in the middle of our lives. Her breathing slowed against my shoulder. My phone stayed quiet for exactly 2 hours. Then the texts started again, coming in clusters, fast and full of the kind of typos that told me he was either driving or drinking or both. "You made Bianca cry. She's having a panic attack in a parking lot. Her roommate kicked her out. This is cruel. Nobody deserves this." I turned the phone face down on the coffee table and kept my eyes on the movie on the little cartoon boat solving all its problems with a good idea and a friend. If only. The next message came from a number I didn't have saved, but I knew whose thumbs were behind it. "You humiliated me in front of children. That's defamation. I could sue." I picked up the phone and typed back one line. "Truth is a complete defense. Try it." The little dots appeared and vanished and appeared again. The call came 30 seconds later. I answered on speaker volume low so my daughter wouldn't stir. "You had no right," Bianca said, and her voice cracked on every other word. "I didn't even know he was married when this started." "The texts say you did," I said. "You called me the wife in at least 5 of them." "That was after," she said. "After I found out and you kept going, I said for months, and then you drove to a 6-year-old's birthday party." "Why?" "I wanted to see it," she said, and there was something raw and awful in it. "I wanted to see what kind of home makes a man that miserable. What kind of wife makes a man like that want out so badly he'd rather be with me. The nerve of it took the wind clean out of me. You wanted to see if you could replace me," I said. "I wanted to understand why he stays," she said. "Because we have a child," I said. Because we built something. Because until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had a marriage worth protecting instead of a man running a whole second life on our credit card. There was a long silence. My daughter shifted against me in her sleep, and I lowered my voice to almost nothing. Here's what happens now, I said. You stop contacting me. You stop contacting him. You disappear out of my family's life. If you come anywhere near us again, I file for a protective order, and I send every screenshot I have to your employer and your family and anyone else who might find your judgment interesting. You already got me put on leave, she said. No, I said, your choices got you put on leave. You had a relationship with a client of the firm you both answer to, and that's against the rules you signed. I just made sure the right people knew where to look. I loved him, she said. You loved the version of him he performed for you in hotel rooms between lies, I said. That's not a person. That's a costume. I hung up before she could answer. The movie ended. My daughter blinked awake, sleep drunk. Is it bedtime? Almost, I said. Teeth first. She shuffled off to the bathroom and I checked the phone. 7 more texts from my husband. Everyone a different arrangement of the same 3 ideas. I'd overreacted. I'd embarrassed him. I'd made everything worse. The last one read, I'm coming by tomorrow for my things, whether you like it or not. I forwarded it to my attorney with 1 word. Threats. Her answer came inside 2 minutes. Good. Keep everyone. If he shows up without arranging it, call the police and log it. Do not open the door. My mother came out of the guest room, where I'd made up the bed for her, reading glasses pushed up into her hair. He's still at it, she said, nodding at the phone. You want me to take the next one? I've got a few sentences saved up from 30 years ago. Tempting, I said, but I have to keep this clean. No ammunition for him to hand his lawyer later. Smart, she said. Your father did the exact same thing. Showed up unannounced and played the wounded party. The judge didn't buy it then, and no judge is going to buy it now. She pressed a mug of something that smelled like lavender into my hands. Drink, sleep. Tomorrow's going to be uglier before it's better. She wasn't wrong. Sunday morning came with 11 missed calls and a voicemail from my mother-in-law that opened with, "We need to discuss your behavior," and got worse from there. I deleted it a third of the way through and blocked her number. My attorney called at 9. Good news and less good news, she said. The Good Center's incident report is on file, and you've got multiple adults who witnessed the affair being admitted to in front of them. That's clean evidence. The less good, he's retained someone. Not a heavy hitter, but she's already sent me a letter accusing you of denying him access to marital assets and alienating him from the child. I froze the joint accounts on your advice, I said. I know, and any judge will understand exactly why, she said, but expect him to escalate. Men who get caught this cold usually do. He did. That afternoon, he showed up at the community center's Sunday open gym, where I'd taken my daughter to burn off a hard weekend. I spotted his car across the lot before I saw him, and then I saw him leaning against the driver's door like he'd been invited, and my blood went to ice. I got to my daughter first, folded her hand into mine. "Daddy's here," she said, unsure whether to be glad. "I see him," I said. He came over with his palms up, that same walking toward a scared animal posture. "I just want 5 minutes with her," he said. "No," I said. "She's my daughter too," he said. "Then you should have thought about that before you brought your girlfriend to her birthday," I said. Parents nearby had gone still, keys dangling, conversations dying. My daughter pressed into my side. "You're making a scene," he hissed. "I'm protecting my kid," I said. "There's a difference from her own father. From the mess you made," I said. "You want time with her, you go through the attorney. You want to talk, you schedule it. You don't get to ambush us because you feel entitled to walk up whenever you like." A staff member had noticed and started toward us. He clocked her coming and stepped back, jaw tight. "This isn't over," he said. "It's over for today," I said. I got my daughter into the car and locked the doors before my hands could start shaking in front of her. The staff member tapped on the glass. "Everything okay?" "Not really," I said, "but we're leaving. Want me to call anyone?" "I've got it," I said. "Thank you." I didn't have it. Not really. But you don't get to fall apart in a parking lot with your 6-year-old watching you in the rear view. At home, I wrote the whole thing down. Time, place, who was there, the exact words. I sent it to my attorney with the subject line, Exhibit B. Her reply, "File for an emergency custody order. This is harassment and it's a pattern now. The paperwork took 2 hours. By the time I finished, my daughter had gone quiet in her room again, and my phone had filled up with texts from his side of the family, all of them arriving to render a verdict on my choices. His brother, "You're being unreasonable." His aunt, "Marriage is work. Don't throw it away over pride." A cousin of his I hadn't spoken to in years. "Heard about the drama? Maybe if you'd made him feel wanted at home, he wouldn't have gone looking." I blocked every one of them. Nadia texted. Saw his car at the center. "You okay?" "Been better?" I typed. "Say the word and I'm there," she wrote. Also, heads up, Bianca made her profile private this afternoon, so somebody found her. I didn't feel any triumph in it, just tired. That night, the text from my husband shifted. Less begging, more edge. "You're turning my daughter against me. You're keeping me out of my own home. I'll take you to court and I'll win." I answered once. "See you there." Then I muted the thread and tried to sleep. The knock came a little after 11. 3 hard raps that went through the quiet house like something breaking. I knew who it was before I looked. He stood on the porch with his shoulders up around his ears, his eyes swollen. His car sat crooked in the driveway with one wheel up on the grass, like he'd stopped it more than parked it. I opened the door but left the chain on. "We need to talk," he said through the gap. "We really don't," I said. "Please, just 5 minutes. You had 6 months of minutes." I said, "You spent them somewhere else." He put his hand flat on the doorframe. "I know I ruined everything," he said. "I know that, but the parking lot blocking my whole family, freezing the accounts. You're making this impossible." "I'm making it impossible," I said. "You're not even letting me explain," he said. I slid the chain off and opened the door wide, not because I wanted his explanation, but because I wanted him to see what was sitting in the entryway behind me. A black rolling suitcase I'd packed 3 hours earlier, stuffed with his clothes, his shaving kit, the framed photo of his parents he kept on his nightstand. He stared at it. "What is that?" "Your things," I said. "You said you were coming for them whether I liked it or not." "So there they are. I meant we'd talk about it first." He said, "Come up with a plan. The plan is you take the suitcase and you go." I said, "Your brother's? A hotel. Bianca's, since you liked it there so much." "She's gone," he said. "She left town this morning." "Not my problem," I said. "She was terrified." He said, "You threatened her." I told her the truth. I said, if the truth terrified her, she should have thought about it before she carried a gift bag into a 6-year-old's party. He shoved both hands through his hair, that gesture I'd loved for a decade, and I felt exactly nothing. "This is insane," he said. "You can't just throw me out of my own house. It's my house." I said, "My name on the deed, because your credit was underwater when we married and you couldn't be added, remember? So, yes, I can. We built this together." He said, "You dismantled it." I said, "I'm just sweeping up." He stepped inside without asking, and I let him because the suitcase was blocking the hall anyway, and he'd have to go through me to get any farther, and I was not giving him that. "You don't get to fix this," I said. You broke something that doesn't go back together. We have a daughter, he said, which is exactly why I'm doing it now, I said, instead of letting her grow up watching the two of us tear each other to pieces over the next 10 years. You're being dramatic, he said. The laugh that came out of me sounded like a stranger's. Dramatic, I said, because finding a key card in your coat pocket and a folio charged to our joint card is just what normal marriage. It wasn't love, he said. Then what was it? I said. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. I don't know, he said. It just happened. Affairs don't just happen. I said, you don't accidentally book a room. You don't trip and land in someone else's bed for 6 months running. I was drowning at work. He said you were always with her, always exhausted, and Bianca just listened. She made me feel like I still mattered to somebody. So, this is my fault, I said. I'm explaining, he said. No, I said. You're making an excuse. There's a difference. He grabbed the suitcase handle and yanked it toward him hard enough that it tipped and crashed onto its side. Fine, he said. You want me gone? I'm gone, but don't stand there like you're some spotless victim in all this. I never said I was spotless, I said. I said I was faithful. You were cold, he said. I was tired, I said. Retired from raising our kid and running this house and working full-time, while you went to conferences and apparently found the hours to audition my replacement. That's not fair, he said. None of this is fair, I said. But here we are. He writhed the suitcase, his jaw grinding on whatever he wanted to throw at me. You're going to regret this, he said. The only thing I regret, I said, is not checking your coat pockets in April. I mean it, he said. You think you're in charge right now? Wait for court. Wait until my lawyer starts digging through your spending, your parenting, everything you've ever done wrong. Go ahead, I said. I've got nothing to hide. Can you say the same? He wheeled the suitcase toward the door, his movements jerky and stiff. At the threshold, he turned back. What do I even tell people? He said. Tell them the truth, I said. That you cheated and you got caught and your wife wasn't interested in auditioning for the role of the forgiving saint. Everyone's going to think I'm a monster? He said. Then maybe don't act like one, I said. You want to talk about who read private messages out loud at a children's party? She wrote them, I said. He left without another word, the suitcase bumping down the porch steps, the car door slamming hard enough to rattle the front windows. I watched through the peephole as he sat in the driver's seat with his head against the wheel for a full minute before he finally pulled out and away. The house felt bigger with him gone, quieter. I locked the door through the deadbolt, checked the back door and every downstairs window, even the ones I'd already checked an hour before. My daughter's voice floated down the stairs. Mama? I climbed up and found her sitting up in bed, the stuffed fox squeezed to her chest. I heard yelling, she said. Just grown-up stuff, I said. Nothing you have to hold. Was that Daddy? Yeah, I said. He came to get some of his things. Is he coming back? The question worn smooth from asking. Not tonight, sweetie, I said, but later. I don't know, I said. Probably not to stay. Did I do something wrong? No, I said. God, no. This has nothing to do with you. Then why is everything different? She said, and her chin wobbled. I sat on the edge of her bed and smoothed the blanket over her legs. Sometimes people grow apart, I said. Sometimes one person makes choices that hurt the other one too much to keep living together. But none of it is your fault, and none of it changes you and me. You and me are solid. That's not going anywhere. Promise, promise, I said. She lay back down, and I stayed until her breathing went deep and even, watching the little rise and fall of the blanket in the glow of her nightlight. Downstairs, My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. I almost let it lie. Then I turned it over. This is Bianca's roommate. She wanted me to tell you she's sorry for everything, and she's getting help, and she won't reach out to you again. I looked at it for a long time before I typed back. Thank you for letting me know. No reply came. I hadn't expected one. The house settled around me. Floorboards ticking, the fridge cycling on. All the small sounds that used to disappear into the background when there was another body here to soak them up. Now they came at me, one at a time. Each one a reminder that I'd chosen this, that I'd drawn a line and refused to let anyone step across it, no matter how hard they begged or blamed or threatened. My attorney called it strength. My mother called it survival. I didn't call it anything. It was just the next thing that needed doing. The email came at 6:52 in the morning, 4 days after he left. Subject line about your husband. I read it standing at the counter with my coffee halfway to my mouth. Hi, you don't know me, it said, but I'm Bianca's sister. She came to me yesterday completely destroyed. She lost her job because of what you did, and she's not sleeping, and I'm scared for her. I know what she did was wrong, but she's a human being, and she's suffering, and I thought you should know. I set the mug down and read it a second time. Then I forwarded it to my attorney with one line. Do I need to respond to this? Her answer landed in 9 minutes. Absolutely not. Do not engage. Forward anything else like it straight to me. I deleted the email and poured the coffee down the drain because my hands weren't steady enough to hold the cup. My daughter appeared in the kitchen doorway with her backpack already on, her hair in the crooked ponytail she'd learned to do herself. Ready for school? Yeah, she said. You okay, Mama? Just tired, I said. Let's go. The drive took 12 minutes. She talked about a class project on the ocean and a friend who'd gotten a puppy and whether we could get one too, now that there was more room in the house. I made the right sounds at the right times, but my mind was snagged on that email on a woman I'd never met, deciding it was my job to carry the weight of consequences her sister had earned on her own. I pulled into the drop-off line and my daughter unbuckled and leaned across to hug me before she slid out. Love you, Mama. Love you too, I said. Have the best day. She vanished into the building, and I sat there watching the other cars roll through. Parents dropping off kids, driving off to jobs and lives and ordinary problems that almost certainly did not include an email from an affair partner's sister asking for sympathy before 8:00 in the morning. My phone rang. Nadia, have you seen it yet? She said. Seen what? Bianca's account. She posted something an hour ago. I don't follow her. I said. I know. But Priya does, she said. She sent me screenshots. It's a whole essay about being bullied and harassed by a bitter wife who couldn't accept her marriage was already dead. I pulled out of the line into a parking spot. Send them to me, I said. They came through 10 seconds later. 3 images, blocks of text over a soft, filtered selfie of Bianca, looking red-eyed and delicate. I read it 3 times. Then I called my attorney. Is this defamation? I said. She had me send the screenshots over. It's borderline, she said. She never names you. The implications are obvious, but she's careful not to make a specific false claim, just to frame the whole thing from her side. Proving damages would be hard. So she gets to lie, and I get to sit here and eat it. I said, you could respond. She said I'd strongly advise you not to. Anything you post publicly can walk right into a courtroom, and right now you have a clean, quiet narrative, and she's the one spilling her feelings all over the internet. That actually helps you. It shows poor judgment and a pattern of inserting herself where she doesn't belong. Let her keep going. I wanted to fight her on it. I wanted to screenshot every message and every folio and every charge and paper, the whole internet with it. But she was right, and engaging would only pour fuel on whatever fire Bianca was trying to light. Fine, I said. I won't respond. Good, my attorney said. Now tell me about this email from the sister. I forwarded that too, and she made a sound that was half sigh, half laugh. This is a pressure tactic, she said. They want you to feel responsible for Bianca's state of mind, so you'll soften on the divorce or think twice about the evidence. If Bianca's genuinely in crisis, her sister should be calling a crisis line, not emailing the wife. The fact that the message came to you specifically tells me it's aimed, not sincere. What if something happens and I ignored it? I said. Then that's on Bianca and the people who actually love her, my attorney said. Not on you. You are not responsible for the well-being of the woman who slept with your husband for half a year. You're responsible for your daughter and yourself. Full stop. I sat in that parking lot another 20 minutes after we hung up, watching the ordinary morning go on around me. Cars in and out, a crossing guard waving her little sign. My phone buzzed, a text from my husband's sister. Can we talk? I don't want to take sides. I'm just worried about everyone. I almost didn't answer. Then I thought about all the years of holidays and birthdays where she'd been genuinely kind to my daughter and to me, and I decided she'd earned honesty at least. I'm willing to talk, I wrote back, but I won't discuss the details of the divorce or defend the decisions I've made to protect my kid. That's fair, she wrote. Coffee tomorrow? Sure, I wrote. We met at a chain cafe halfway between our houses, hard chairs and thin coffee. She was already there when I came in, both hands around a paper cup, her eyes ringed and tired in a way that said she hadn't been sleeping well either. Thank you for coming, she said. I sat down across from her. Of course, I said. I honestly don't know what to say, she said. He's my brother, and I love him. What he did was inexcusable. I appreciate you saying that. I said, he called me last night. She said you were destroying his life, that you got Bianca fired and turned the whole family against him, that he doesn't know how to fix any of it. He can't fix it. I said, I know. She said, I told him that. I told him he made choices, and now he lives inside them. But he's got himself convinced you're just being cruel. I'm being protective. I said, there's a difference. She turned the cup in her hands. The party, she said, that was a lot. It was necessary. I said, you really didn't know she was coming? No, I said. If I'd known, I'd have handled it away from my daughter, but she walked into a 6-year-old's birthday with a gift bag, and I wasn't going to let her stand there and rewrite what she was in front of a room full of people who knew us. He says, you did it to embarrass him, she said. I embarrassed him by telling the truth. I said, he embarrassed himself when he made the truth exist. She looked at me for a long moment, and something in her expression settled. I believe you, she said. I didn't want to, because he's my brother, but I do, and I'm sorry for what he did, for what you're in the middle of. Thank you. I said, what happens now? She said, the divorce goes through. I said, we split what there is. I keep primary custody. He gets visitation. We figure out how to raise her without wrecking her in the crossfire. And Bianca is not my problem. I said, she lost a job because she broke a rule she signed. She's in pain because her actions had a cost. None of that belongs to me. He thinks you sent things to her employer, she said. I didn't. I said, but I won't apologize that somebody did. She finished her coffee and set the cup down carefully. Can I ask you something? She said. Go ahead. Do you hate him? The question caught me sideways. I actually thought about it, turned it over until I found what was underneath. No, I said finally. I hate what he did. I hate that he picked someone else over his family. I hate that he lied for months and made me feel like I was losing my mind when I knew something was wrong, but him. I don't have the energy to hate him. I just want him out of my life in every part of it that isn't our daughter." "That's fair," she said. "Is he okay?" "Define okay," I said. "Not falling apart," she said. "He's at our parents'," I said, "though I only know because you just told me he wasn't at his brother's." She almost smiled. "Mom cried for 2 days when she found out. She said she loves you. She loves your girl. This has been awful for all of us." "I know," I said. "I'm sorry you're caught in it. Don't." She said, "You didn't do this." We talked another half-hour, mostly about my daughter and schedules and the small, ordinary logistics divorce forces you to invent. And when we stood to go, she hugged me quick and hard. "Call me if you need anything," she said. "I mean it." "I will," I said. I drove home lighter than I'd been in days, like a weight I'd been carrying alone had finally been seen by somebody else, even if they couldn't lift it off me. I signed the divorce paperwork at my kitchen table that afternoon, igniting the margins where my attorney had flagged distribution of assets and custody and support, all reduced to clean lines and percentages that turned 11 years down to a page and a half. I scanned it and sent it back. Done. My phone rang an hour later. "My attorney, he's contesting custody," she said. "On what grounds?" I said. "He's claiming you're alienating him and using the divorce to punish him for the affair." She said, "That's absurd." I said, "I've never once kept him from seeing her." "I know." She said, "We have a record of every visit you've offered, but his lawyer is going to try to paint you as unstable and vindictive based on what?" I said, "The party." She said, "They'll argue that confronting Bianca in front of children shows poor judgment." I laughed, actually laughed out loud in my empty kitchen. "He brought his affair partner to our daughter's birthday," I said. "And I'm the one with poor judgment." "That's what I said," she said, "and that's what I'll say in court. But I need you ready for it to get ugly. He's going to try to flip the whole thing and make you the aggressor." "Let him try," I said. "I have witnesses. I have folios. I have 6 months of evidence showing exactly who did what and when." "Good," she said, "because we're going to use every piece of it." The court date landed 6 weeks later. I wore a plain navy dress and small earrings and pulled my hair back. My attorney had walked me through it. Answer only what's asked. Stay level no matter what his lawyer implies. Don't perform. Don't apologize. The courtroom was smaller than I'd pictured. Fluorescent lights and wood veneer. And a judge who looked like she'd already read too many of these. His lawyer went first, and she painted a portrait of a bitter, vengeful wife who'd taken a private wound and turned it into a public spectacle, who'd humiliated her client in front of his daughter's friends, who'd set out to torch his reputation and his career. Then my attorney stood up and took it apart one plank at a time. She entered the texts, the folios, the joint card charges, the timeline that showed 6 months of lies, and then she called her first witness. Nadia took the stand and described the party plainly in order. How Bianca introduced herself, how I answered, how the other parents reacted, how my daughter came over with a deflated balloon and asked what was happening, and how I knelt down and comforted her before I said another word. "Did she seem out of control?" my attorney asked. "No," Nadia said. "She was angry, obviously, but she wasn't screaming. She wasn't making a scene beyond stating facts. The scene was already happening. A woman crashed a child's birthday party. That's what caused the disruption. 2 more parents testified and both said the same thing in their own words. I'd been direct, but not cruel. Bianca had seemed calculated in her timing, and my husband had looked guilty, not surprised. His lawyer tried to argue I could have handled it privately. My attorney pointed out that I had handled it privately for 3 weeks, while I gathered evidence and met with counsel, and that Bianca's decision to show up in person was what forced it into the open. The judge listened to all of it, made her notes, asked a handful of quiet, clarifying questions. Then she ruled primary custody to me, visitation for him, supervised for the first 3 months, subject to review. The house was mine. The assets split under the prenup I'd insisted on before we married, back when he'd called me paranoid for wanting my name protected on paper. He didn't look at me once as we filed out. His lawyer tried to sell it to him in the hallway as a partial win, since he'd gotten visitation at all. My attorney called it exactly what we'd expected and told me to go home and celebrate. I picked my daughter up from school and took her for ice cream instead. She got cookies and cream and a waffle cone, and I got nothing because my stomach was still knotted from 6 hours of watching my marriage get dissected by strangers. "Why are you so smiley?" she asked. "Because the hard part's over," I said. "The grown-up paperwork part. Now we just get to be us. Just us," she said. "Just us," I said. She thought about it, licking a drip off the side of the cone. "I like just us," she said. "Me too, kiddo," I said too. That night after she was asleep, I sat out on the back step with a glass of wine and looked up at the sky. My phone buzzed with messages from friends, from my attorney confirming the final decree, from Nadia asking if I wanted to come over and celebrate properly. I answered them all, with some version of thank you, and maybe soon, and then I set the phone down and just sat there and felt the weight of the last 2 months finally start to come off my shoulders. The affair, the confrontation, the divorce, all of it was fact now. Filed and sealed in language that meant I could stop explaining, stop defending, stop justifying why I'd chosen my own dignity over a marriage that had ended the night he first booked a room and just hadn't told me yet. Bianca's accounts had gone silent after her firm let her go. My husband had moved back in with his parents an hour away. The parents from the party still waved when they saw me at school pickup. Life had gotten smaller and quieter, and mine in a way it hadn't been in years. I finished the wine, rinsed the glass, checked the locks, and went up to look in on my daughter one more time. She was sprawled sideways across the mattress with the blanket kicked off and the stuffed fox wedged under her arm. I pulled the blanket back over her and kissed her forehead, and then I went to my own room and slept for the first time in longer than I could remember all the way through the night. A year later, my daughter turned 7. We had it at home this time, just us, Nadia, and her kids, my mother and my aunt, who drove in for the weekend. Chocolate cake with rainbow sprinkles because she'd specifically requested it, and paper she'd picked out herself at the store. She blew out all 7 candles in one breath and leaned close to me while everyone clapped. "This one's better," she whispered. "Yeah," I said. "Way better." "No weird stuff," she said. "No weird stuff," I said, and kissed the top of her head and cut the cake while Nadia poured juice boxes and my aunt queued up a movie. Later, after everyone had gone and my daughter was asleep upstairs, I sat at the kitchen table with the last square of cake and my phone lit up with a text from my ex. "Hope she had a good day." "She did," I typed back. "Thanks for the present," because he'd sent a card and a stuffed rabbit she'd already added to the pile on her bed. Then another text came in. "Bianca still hasn't found work. You know that's on you." I looked at it for a long moment, then I deleted the thread without answering. He'd said it before, that I'd ruined her, that I'd gone too far, that public humiliation was cruel and unnecessary, but she'd walked into my 6-year-old's birthday party to play house with somebody else's family, and I had simply made sure the whole room knew what she was before she could file it down into something softer. Some things need daylight to be seen for what they are.